Hey guys, it's Via here. So today we're back with another video, and today's video is going to be yet another sustainability series video. So this is essentially going to be about zero waste pattern cutting. And what is zero waste pattern cutting, you ask? Well, zero waste pattern cutting is essentially using 100% of the fabric that you have. It be 120 centimeters or 150 centimeters or whatever other measurement that you have. You're going to use 100% of that. So if you have a roll that is 150 centimeters by 1 meter, for example, and you get it in meters, of course, you're going to use 100% of that square or rectangle or whatever else it is that you're doing. So the reason why I want to mention this as part of my sustainability series is because of the fashion industry creates a lot of waste. So by cutting out on the production waste when the patterns are being cut, I don't know if you guys know how this works. Essentially, usually in factories, they have like 100 layers of fabric, and they'll go in and they'll cut it. And of course, when you're laying pattern pieces that are not, for example, all rectangles and squares, and then don't all fit into each other, they will leave behind certain spaces that essentially go to the bin, unless we find a way to recycle them. Some companies do find a way to recycle them, but currently it's very difficult to do that. So one approach to sustainability is to cut from the waste, from the design, from the point of the design, rather than later after you've already designed it. So essentially designing with sustainability in mind. Now, what I would like to show you guys is a book that I got about a week or two ago. Essentially, this idea came from a project that I've been working on at uni, which is all about sustainability. So not only about the pattern cutting side of it, but also the dyeing side of it, and how everything is produced, if it's going to be digital, if it's going to be done in paper, whatever you're doing. And this also links back to my last video, which is on the CLO program that I really believe everyone should try out. Link will be in the description for that video and also in the cards above. I always forget which side this is, so please guys let me know. I think it's that side. Let's stick to that side. I might be wrong. So yeah. So essentially, using that program will allow us to cut away from the twiling and the pattern cutting paper that would be wasted. Now, the next step is the production, which would then have waste. So let's try and figure out a way to cut on waste in that side of things. So, as I was saying, I got this book. My uni tutors suggested it to me, and of course, when they're suggested to me, I am like the first person to go on Amazon and order them. So yeah, link to this book will also be in the description if you guys want it after I talk about this. So this book really clearly presents different ways in which we can do pattern cutting, and I'm not gonna go through every single page of it, but it gives us examples of how it can be done. I have a really good one here. Wait, let me show you guys. This one here, for example, it looks very confusing, but essentially from this rectangle, what they do, oh my god, what is done is they placed all the pattern pieces and essentially made them into a puzzle, and then of course everything would be cut out very, very carefully, and they would ensure that 100% of this rectangle would be used, just like I said. So that's one way for you to do things. They have a little page at the beginning, and they're talking about the numbers and the stats according to the waste that is produced by the fashion industry. So it says the average amount of fabric that is wasted when garments are cut and made is about 15%. Now, 15% might not seem like a lot, but imagine 15% of 15% of 1 meter. Now, they go through thousands and thousands of meters of fabric. So 15% of thousands and thousands is actually going to add up very quickly to a lot. So cutting away from that waste would be very beneficial to the industry. But it says here that in 2015, they probably did a study, and 400 billion square meters of fabric is produced just for making clothes. Now, 15% of those, should we do the maths? We're gonna do the maths. So it's 400 billion, so I'm just gonna do 15% of 400 and we're gonna figure out what it is.
So that's 60. Oh my god. Okay, wait, no.
So I actually had to like recalculate that because I didn't actually believe the numbers that I was looking at. So what it says here is that from my calculation, which is literally 15% of 400, which is 400 billion, is 60. So 60 billion square meters of fabric is wasted by the fashion industry. That's a lot of fabric. Anyways, oh yeah, oh wow. I didn't even have to calculate it, you guys. It was below. It literally says here 15% of 400 billion square meters is 60. So yeah, I have to think about reading instead of just doing my calculations. But yeah, so that's 60 billion. That's a lot of fabric. And I'm sorry for repeating it so many times, but that's a lot, and it really has to change. So the next question you might ask is, how then can we fix this problem? Why isn't it being done? And what is the next step, essentially? First thing is, why isn't it being taken care of? Like, why aren't people trying harder to fix this? Well, it's not that they don't try hard. There's actually people whose job it is to just place pattern pieces on like on a rectangle, just to literally find the way to minimize the waste. So there's people that literally their job is to try and reduce waste, and there's even programs that can help you place them in the most beneficial way possible. But the problem is, if the pattern pieces are all round, for example, let me show you something. Here's our sleeve, right? If you have watched any of my videos, you would know that this is how a basic sleeve pattern looks like. Now, the rest part of it, most of it is like a rectangle, right? But even then, it's not a perfect rectangle because the angles here are not right angles, but still. So most of it is okay. It's easy to deal with. But what about this? You need to find a way to, if you're going to cut this, for example, out of a rectangle, what are you going to do with this piece? What are you going to do with this piece? Now, you might try to place them around with each other in the pattern, but because the lines don't fully match each other, it's very difficult to essentially reduce waste if you keep using the standard patterns. So what I think the solution can be, this is just my point of view, what I've been trying to do is to either use pleats or to just use rectangles and squares to essentially block out a to make a block. So I have, for example, if I get a rectangle and I pleat it all around, I can then turn that rectangle into something more round. For example, like a skirt. A pleated skirt would not be just a rectangle around your body, and you can actually make it fit to you without having to cut a circle. So that is one thing. Another thing is if you try to cut everything out of squares, but obviously it's very difficult because our body is not like a robot's body and we do need to move, and it is difficult to match the body lines with the square lines. Now there's other people that have different approaches that I can talk about in this book. Just before I move on, the most historical traditional dress that actually uses zero waste pattern cutting is kimonos. And the reason is that they're basically all, if I show you this image, you guys can see the pattern behind this kimono is all rectangles. All these rectangles are stitched together to make the kimono. Now, not everyone wants to walk around in a kimono, which I get it, but this is just to show the basics and literally what you can build up from. And over time, people actually, for example, back in the day, like 200, 300 years ago, the people who didn't have as much money and they were not rich, they were not wealthy, they were not royal, they didn't have money to be spending on a lot of fabric. So they did have very innovative ways to reuse and to create clothing that, one, can change size over time and can be adapted, and two, to make use of as much of the resources as possible. So that is what we have here. For example, if you guys can see, this shirt has, like, for example, over here it has like a little triangle which comes from these little squares, and what it does is essentially to create something a bit more fluid. It has used pleats and it has used squares to essentially make the zero waste, as you can see here in the pattern behind us, how it was all put together. So it is possible. The other thing I want to show you is the individuals that have been even more creative and even more I'm just assuming that they've had a lot of practice and they've done this quite a lot, but I just want to show you this. Here's another thing that is also zero waste. I like it. I still haven't figured out exactly how they made zero waste, but I shall figure it out sooner or later.
It is quite difficult. Let me see.
This is another example of how they did it. So they made these trousers from the zero waste pattern. So they essentially used everything, and I'm pretty sure this is the pattern for this, and that's the pattern for the trousers. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of what it looks like. Just giving you guys ideas. Look, this one is much more intricate and much more complex, and it looks much nicer, and somehow they made it a zero waste garment. Anything in this book is a zero waste garment, so as hard as it may be to believe that this is not going to be zero waste with all these angles, it is possible. So you don't have to just use rectangles and squares, it's just going to be more difficult. I don't know if you remember, but I showed you guys before, this is something much more complex and much more difficult to create. So what they've done is they've tried to keep to the round shapes to fit around our body, not in a more, how do I explain this? To fit around our body in a nicer way, in a more proper way, to try and use the essentially the classic way of doing things, the standard way of doing things, and try to just adjust and find spaces in between. And as you can see, it is able to be done, and it's just a bit of an inspiration for you guys to do something for yourselves. If you want, one day I can do a tutorial on one of these, or I can come up with my own garment and I can show you guys how I did it and the steps I took and how it works, because I will eventually, I hope, I will reach that point. But look, you can even do trousers here. Look how they put the trousers in there. So they did use the conventional trouser pattern, but everything else worked around it. So I really like that. I don't think there's anything else for me to show you. This one's really cool. Look at that. This looks cooler than the garment itself, but it really shows. Imagine all you have to do, get a piece of fabric, you do a whole print on it, and then from that print you just cut away. That would be cool. You can do like digital printing and stuff, which is interesting. So yeah, now I want to just show you guys really quickly what I've been trying to do in the past week or so. So on the right, on your left, as you guys can see, these are very simple things, and they might look so ugly, because to me right now they look so ugly. It's so simple, but this is what I've been doing. I've been using the 3D program, so I don't have to use any physical fabric, so I don't have to waste it and then I have nothing left. Also, it's much quicker to experiment. I've done essentially 4 different things, and this is just me trying to see how I can do like a shirt type thing with the program. I tried to use just rectangles. One of them is a bit more dramatic, and I have yet to figure out how to make it zero waste, but it is on the way, and I am just trying to understand this concept myself. So what I would just like to say to you guys before we end this video is that this is a difficult topic, and it is not a topic, this is a difficult practice. But if you guys are interested in doing projects for yourselves about sustainability, or you want to try and make clothes for yourself that are sustainable and that are zero waste, you guys can look at different books, you can look at different videos. YouTube doesn't have that many videos on how to do zero waste pattern cutting, which is very difficult, which is why I think I might do a video for you guys with some practical included, so you guys can see my approach. But first thing is, try do it yourself, come up with interesting things, you never know. But I just want to inspire the people that watch this channel to take the step forward, to try new things and to push the boundaries and to benefit the industry. So if there's anyone out here that is going to be a future designer, they're thinking about the environment first and designing around that and trying to benefit the planet, essentially. Don't forget, if you want to have a look at this book, link will be in the bio. I don't remember how much it was. I think it was like £16, maybe more, maybe 20 something. But if you want it, link is in the description. This is good for ideas, and it's good. It also talks about interviews, it talks about other things, talks about printing, talks about different methods. I just don't have time in this video to go and explain everything to you guys. They have a bunch of different methods on how this is done, even about grading, about the ways to position things in the rectangle, about everything. Like literally they have so many different methods. If you want to have a look at it, link in the description. And yeah, don't forget to check out my other videos on sustainability. I've done videos on how to dye things using flowers. I have done the video on the program, and soon I will do other videos related to this topic so that you guys can be educated on sustainability and just to be pushed forward to do something better. So not just your standard. I want everyone to be great. I want everyone to achieve and everyone to go for the stars. So that's why I'm doing this, to benefit everyone. I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I will see you guys next time. And if you try this at all, just before you go, if you try to do any zero waste pattern cutting or anything, don't forget to tag me on Instagram. I will see it, I will check it out, and if you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you want to see a tutorial on this, please tell me in the comments, leave a like, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!